everyone. Today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today, my friends, courtesy of one of the best websites on planet Earth going strong today, like 8-pack abs, known as podmatch.com, the wonderful site where podcast guests get to connect with podcast hosts, and if they're cool, they're freaking in, and today's guest is cooler than 100 cucumbers. And folks are like, damn, 100 cucumbers? I thought you usually double it to 2 or like 10. It's like, no. Well, shoot, you're going to freaking find out why this is cooler than 100 cucumbers, because 13-year-old Dom would have been freaking amazed and been like, dude, you actually get to talk to this lady, man? You're like, yeah, man, she's doing freaking great work today, because today's wonderful bookcaster, because she's a podcast host and an author. She's a magical mom, a medium, mystic, mentor, model, actress, speaker, as well as a former WWE Diva, the first ever to appear on this podcast. Let's give it up for Miss J to the G, the jubilant and generous Joy Giovanni. How you doing today, Joy?
Wow, Dom, what a sparkly intro. Thank you so much.
Well, my pleasure indeed. You're my favorite Diva Search contestant back in the day. I'm like, well,
Okay, I see where we okay. I'm excited for your questions. Let's see where we're gonna go. This is gonna be great.
Yeah, don't worry. We're not gonna try to dig up dirt. So many folks try to do that, and it's like, well, that was freaking a while ago, and I'm sure
Yeah, I
half the
think 20-year-old dirt is a little dusty. Sometimes it's okay to sometimes it's okay to share, and sometimes it's you just gotta let it lie.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just let it lie down, just stay with the earth, and then, maybe form into something else. I'm sorry, maybe
Hopefully.
maybe a rock, maybe a stronger dirt ball. Yeah, greener grass. But it ain't about greener grass, it's about you. So my goodness, if you're to describe your journey from mini joy to current joy in 3 magical words, what would they be and why?
I have to quote one of my favorite authors for this, Miss Maya Angelou, with Still I Rise.
That's like the best response to that question so far.
Well, thank you. She's the best author of all time, so I'm not surprised. And I hope that's a 3 words for all of us throughout our journeys, right?
Heck yeah, it's right indeed, because you've been through a lot.
I have, and that's what I talk about publicly. So you can imagine there's a yeah, life is crazy, right? Nothing's guaranteed, and we all have highs and lows. So still I rise.
Still I rise indeed, that's right indeed. Because if I'm not mistaken, shoot, because if I'm not mistaken, you had the model actress thing going on, and then got to the Diva Search, and then was able to get through most of the routes.
Yeah.
Then they were able to call you back. Thank God they did.
Well, once I realized what the like quote unquote winner contract was, I was like, fingers crossed, I don't want to win this at all. So it was not you know, the way that how it is. Sometimes the way that something is advertised and the fine print are not the same. So
Oh wow, okay. So I guess the $250,000, it's like, oh, you'll get this, but hey, we get to keep your name. You have to do all this other stuff, I guess, right?
yeah, and it's also was over 3 years. Plus, you have to buy your own hotels. Plus, you have to anything besides flights, you're taking care of yourself. Plus, and all these obligations. And that contract also obligated Christy Hemme, the wonderful and amazing, is who won that year, and totally deserved it. I knew from the minute I met her, she was meant to be winning that thing. But she had to go on the road full time also. So when you divide that by 3 with all the expenses, plus you're traveling 5 days a week, the math is not math for me. I don't, so
Yeah, you're so right about that, because like being a fan, especially a bigger fan back in the day, just reading up on like what you had to go through being a WWE superstar. It's like, yeah, you're on TV internationally, millions of fans are seeing you. It's great, but it's a
yeah.
freaking grind back in the day, depending on your situation.
Yeah, totally. And it's a business, so it's a different thing. And it's a definitely the old boys club thing was real when I when I was there, certainly. So yeah, there were still a lot of people that didn't believe that women had a place in wrestling or WWE at all in any capacity whatsoever. And as we've seen over the years, if you're still a fan, there have been some amazing female athletes that have really fought for the right to express their athleticism in that way. But yeah, it's an interesting place.
That's right, indeed. Oh yeah, especially some of the stores you were in.
Yeah, that
Freaking
was.
being locked in the car.
Oh my gosh, you know what's so crazy? Years later, someone sent me a still of me locked in the trunk of that limo, I think is the one you're talking about. And it
Yeah.
was being used in a news story in Mexico and South America about trafficking, human trafficking,
What?
and people being kidnapped. And I was like, this is nuts. Because the wild internet. So and that was even before we had all these, we were talking about AI deepfakes and stuff. That's before even any of that. It just was a still from the episode. And became friends with a couple of the writers, as you do sometimes on shows, and they would joke and say, one of them in particular would say like, oh, it was my job to like get myself together to call you every week to say like, oh, we have this idea that we want you to do this, and to try to convince me to do whatever it was they had written in that week. I already was a SAG actor at the time. So when you act in that capacity, you don't really get a say in what the writers have written. So I just kind of was like, okay, well, just tell me to give me the script and tell me when to show up. But yeah, it's some of those episodes were interesting and colorful for sure. And I don't know that they would have landed the same. It hits different today, right? I'll say it that way.
Oh yeah, dude, you're so right. Cause like I even went back in time on YouTube and and looked up when The Rock came back and had all y'all in a pie eating contest.
Oh, friend. Oh, friend. Oh, friend. I took some bad advice from a supposed longtime fan that said, "Oh, cut a promo." And the situation for those that I sure don't know, because why would you? There was like some animosity between another girl and I. Unfortunately, someone chose to call me out on international television and expose that I was a mom, which is something no one knew professionally at that time. The way the world worked was that you wouldn't get booked. Discrimination's real. I think we all know that. And
It
couldn't get
is.
booked on certain jobs and things if you had kids. So it was like a big secret. And this person had been kind of in the locker room with me and heard me calling my kids multiple times a day because they were like 2 and 4 at the time. And I'd never been away from them, and just decided that it was a great opportunity on television to tell everyone that I shouldn't be there because I should be home with my kids. so that's how that. And then they brought The Rock the next time in Anaheim, and we were supposed to. What they told me when I came back to the green room or to like the backstage area, they were like, "We set this up so you could put a pie in this girl's face." And I was like, "Who in their right mind connects those dots in the real world?" Because they had also told us this person in particular was like known to be libelous, was suing random people that they had started fights with in
Oh,
the world at nightclubs and things. And they had told
oh.
us if this person says you hurt them and wants to sue you, you're on your own. So I was like, why would I, as a regular person, think, oh, there's a pie here. Let me put it in someone's face that I don't like. Are you crazy? Like, hello, you guys should have gave me like my mind. I don't know about everyone else, if everyone else lives in like Three Stooges land, but in my mind, like it's just not, I just didn't get there. So someone else had told me, oh, you gotta call this, whatever the exercise or the thing they make you do is, you gotta call this person out, because they wouldn't tell us ahead what we were doing. We just kind of walk in and it'd be like, go. So yeah, that was embarrassing. I'm still embarrassed. I met him a couple times subsequently, and I kind of sheepishly was like, oh. So and at the time, that was like my biggest crush in the world. So quite embarrassing, as you might imagine, to get booed by the entire Anaheim arena in front of your biggest crush in the universe. So that was a little embarrassing. just a little bit.
But hey, you look great while doing it. So
Well,
hey,
thanks. I will take it. I will take it. Which I guess is why I passed for so long for not a mom, because I kept it together. So moms can keep it together too.
Yeah, probably had that mom glow where it's like, yeah, she has that new light now. She's got two kiddos, extra empathy, extra heart.
Oh, you must not have kids because that mom glow is like sweat and exhaustion when you have toddlers and kids under. So I think that's what that was.
Yeah, but that is the glow, the sweat, helps y'all to glisten.
I guess. I guess. That's a you must have a lot of women in your life that you got to say that. A lot of
Yeah.
wonderful strong women, I'm sure.
Yeah, youngest of four, and two older sisters, so yeah.
Wow. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, work at a library too, so kids
Oh,
and a lot of females
nice.
too, so yeah.
I love that. Wow.
Oh man. But hey, and also they're able to take all of that and really just keep pushing forward regardless. So my goodness, so didn't win the contest, but it was a blessing in disguise. You're able to
Yeah.
get a contract and still get some paychecks before they did their whole release thing where they would release a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my
That happened
goodness.
unexpectedly. They're a very I think there's a certain, well, we see it now in 2025. There's a certain percentage of the population that has that attitude of, what is it? Do now and apologize later, ask for forgiveness later. They had that kind of attitude where it's just, they're just going to do it and the dust will settle on it later. So that's kind of what happened. I had bags packed by the door and I got that call and it was, those raspy, it's not, it's not personal, it's just business. And it felt personal to me because I was very upset. And yeah, I found out I was the last of 50. Actually, I started calling friends and some of them already knew. And yeah, that was crazy. Very unexpected. Not, you don't get a chance to say goodbye. You've been with these people. I was there for about a year. And because I was part of the main event program, you're there all the time with everyone. And so it's this interesting, and it's not just the people that you see, it's the people you don't see. Anytime you're on a set or a production, there's crew and, sound people and camera people and the whole thing. So didn't get to say bye to anybody. That was probably the hardest part.
That sucks too. Like just hearing about that, it's like there's like no goodbye situation. It's like, well,
Yeah.
we wish you well in your future endeavors.
Yeah. I think what the worst part was so the way that I came in, as you said, it was different than the contest. So in my contract, was only required to come for televised episodes that I was going to be working on and like pay-per-views and press conferences and those kind of things. But I had just agreed to go full time on the road, which was a big deal because my kids were small and I did, it was a big back and forth wrestle for me. Haha, pun. I had a team, the management and publicist, and they were like, this could be great for your career. We want you to do this. So I had just, in my heart, it really felt like kind of giving in and making this big sacrifice and agreeing. I had when I say bags packed, it was like for the week to leave and go. And then it was like the call. So it's like, oh, this just feels like, not, I don't know, it stung a little extra maybe, but it's been a long time. And I did go back a few years later and was on WrestleMania 25. I went back for that, so I did get to see everyone again. And
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Like, how was that experience? Because it sucked as a fan. Because I'm like, wait a second, I thought Kid Rock was gonna perform one song, not a 30-minute concert, and all y'all just gonna walk down the freaking ramp and just have a battle
yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting.
royal. I would prefer to see an introduction. But actually, on a more positive note, like any real big good experiences stick out to you from that time? Because I know you got to work with a lot of great folks like Big Show, Kurt Angle, and some of the other stars,
Yeah.
like even JBL, and of course your fun feud with Amy Weber. On
Yeah, we're
top of
still
that,
friends, actually, she and I. I just saw her not that long ago. So, I think that just like any arena in life, we can continue to glean lessons and learnings and applications from positive and challenging experiences, right? I did get to travel all over the world. I got to go on a week long tour to to Europe, which was Italy, Ireland, Wales, UK. I got to be in front of the entire Staples Center live audience. I got to be in front of the entire Tokyo Dome, which is bigger than the Staples Center. And just to be a part of all of that, not only to feel the energy of that much, that much of a crowd all at once, but behind the scenes, I think what not everybody knows is that every single week there are opportunities to do like Make-A-Wish, for example. And for me, it just always felt so much like a reality check and a right sizing of things, because this little person who's going through the most traumatic thing and the family, and they are so excited to just meet you, just a regular human being who's not more special than them. And it kind of puts things in different perspectives. So it opens different doors in that way. That is, I don't know, was probably my favorite part, actually, getting to meet the fans and do those type of experiences for people was just really powerful and stays with me so much.
Ah, beautiful indeed, beautiful indeed. Probably that definitely is probably a feel good moment being able to help some Make-A-Wish kids indeed.
Yeah, because it just feels like sometimes I was like, this is what you guys picked. Like this is like you know what I mean? Because it's like you could have picked somebody better maybe or something. So it is just to give one moment of happiness in any way. And what's been so fascinating, as you said, it's been a really long time. I guess it's been like almost 20 years now or so. Is that right? I think. It really is interesting to have people like yourself who said you were a fan when you were a kiddo reach out over the years now that we do have things like social media and just say it sometimes in like dark moments for them or times where they were going through transitions in their life that they didn't understand, even though people think like, oh, wrestling is ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean? It's its own soap opera for sure. If it's giving any human being just one moment of peace or hope or a break from whatever it is they're struggling with, I think there's value in that.
Yeah, immense value indeed. Immense value indeed. You're so right about that. Heck, now that I think about it, shoots, how was the transition period like, especially for your spiritual development side? Because all that work you're trying to do, if I'm not mistaken, getting released and then going through a divorce at the time too, right?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting the way it went because, like you said, there I was. Everything on the outside looked perfect, picture perfect. I was seemingly on top of the world, as a WWE diva, probably one of the most highly utilized ones in my program at the time, just because, like you said, I was with some of the top talent and my character was even in numerous video games. So
Yep.
it was all very exciting and I was so grateful. But the truth is, inside, I still felt lost and small and inauthentic. Like I was saying, behind the scenes, I was a mom. My kids were young. Nobody knew. Plus, I was carrying all the financial weight for my family and some extended family and stuck in a toxic and crumbling marriage. And even though I wore a brave face outside, I felt like I had to be everything that everyone else wanted or needed me to be. And I lost myself in all of that people pleasing, to be honest. And then when it all came crashing down, like you said, I lost my contract, my marriage imploded shortly after, and not long after that, I lost my home because I had just bought a newer, bigger house for everybody. And at rock bottom, I would say I felt powerless and broken. And really, my solution or resolution was to try everything to heal myself. I tried therapy and self-help books and journaling, and it all helped to some degree, but something was still missing for me. I think a lot of people can relate to that, even though it might not be the same situation. We go through these things and we're struggling and trying, but it doesn't always feel like we're getting that click that we need to kind of put us to that next place. And then everything came full circle for me after a series of what I would call like divine nudges and unexpected blessings, or sometimes things that didn't appear as blessings at the
Right.
onset. I began like almost this quest, is how I think of it, to rediscover like the real me and awaken my true purpose. And each step felt like I was being kind of guided and collecting these little missing pieces to my own puzzle. And it kind of started slowly at first with the spiritual development and then with a vengeance, because that's kind of how I am. Once I get excited about something, I really want to throw myself in. I started strengthening my gifts and learning all about spirituality and energy healing. And after a lot of study and practice, I was able to open my own wellness practice. A lot of people know I had been in wellness and natural medicine and massage therapy before doing acting. And so it's actually how I got into fitness modeling and acting. So I kind of returned to that. And then there's a lot of my stories have a little weird jog, but I moved from LA to San Diego. I had a friend that was returning here at the time. She was from here, married someone in the military, and they were returning here. And I said, you know what? I'm going to move down there too. I had lived here before, and we started an ice cream truck business together, which I know sounds crazy. Wow. and it's just proof that the universe will find you wherever you are when you're ready. And I actually met someone while I was driving this ice cream truck that was a master teacher of something called Reiki, which is a Japanese method of energy healing that I had always wanted to learn. And I was like, oh my gosh, will you teach me? And she said, yeah, I'll teach you. Get this book and come back. And I was back the next day. And so I privately mentored with her. She was the first person to tell me I was psychic. And I was like, oh, you're crazy, because I don't, that's not real. But then as I came to understand that psychic doesn't mean predicting the future, it just means having senses or understanding of things we don't see with our physical senses or experience with our physical senses. It all started to really come more into form. And then I sought out mentors and trained for years with world-renowned mediums. I really believe in having a firm foundation of education. And it's a continual process, which I think is part of the best thing of life for all of us, is that we all continue to get to expand and grow and master our gifts deeper and deeper. So yeah, it's been an interesting whirlwind experience, but it happened over so many years that I think it has felt maybe slower than it has appeared from the outside. But this really does feel like, a truer version of me, or just, I guess, a more complete version of me. So many of us are hiding pieces of ourselves as we go through our career and our life, right? How many people have their little like hobby that they don't share with the world? For some people, it's writing, which is why I love that you have this podcast, because a lot of people have a secret book in them that they may or may not be making notes about here and there. Do you know what I mean? So how do we come to this time now where we're not willing to live these two separate lives or hide these different versions of ourselves, but where we can express our whole selves wherever we are? That's part of what I like to kind of hold for people. Plus this idea that intuition or having these like sixth senses is something that is magical and only belongs to a few. It's accessible to everybody. And we're not so separate. We're not so separate from our loved ones that have crossed over as we might think. So yeah, it's been really interesting and fun and hard work, just like everything else, but I love it a lot.
Definitely can hear it in your voice. Indeed. Good times
Well,
indeed. Good
thanks.
times indeed. That's right indeed. Did you ever have a flashback when you had the ice cream truck? Cause like crap. What if someone remembers me from that darn episode of Raw and they see me this ice cream truck?
No, you know what? It's not one of those things. Even when I was with the company in California, it's not so as a popular as it is maybe in like the South or the East. So, and it's been a really long time. I wouldn't say I was recognizable to that degree. And I would like to have you know that that ice cream truck still exists. My business partner just took it over. I went back to massage therapy, and that's when I was creating my wellness business. And so that still exists and is a thriving business today. I'm just not a part of it anymore. Uh,
Hey, sure. Congrats. Freaking success right there. Sure. When you can start a business and keep it going, especially past 5 freaking years on top of that, that's freaking huge.
Well, and the
Congrats.
other thing is, I think it's fair to pivot, right? Like if someone starts something, whether it's a book that they want to write or any endeavor that they want to take on, it's okay to try stuff. Where in our adulthood do we lose this feeling that like we could just try a new hobby or try writing a book, even if we don't feel like we're great at it? And if you don't like it, you could pick something else. But it's it's fair to try, right?
Oh, definitely indeed. Definitely fair to try indeed. And heck, you even tried your hand at making some public writing with your fabulous entry in the book The Last Breath. So How'd that
Yeah.
opportunity come about, and what was it like writing that chapter? Like, what was your thought process in like choosing which part to add to the book?
So that's a great question. Actually, a medium that I know that also organizes events and other things like that, she started a publishing company. She wanted to found a publishing company partially named after her mom. It's called Franklin Rose Publishing. She's a wonderful woman. She's published several books now, and it's a compilation of actually several mediums that I know most of them. So, mediumship, like most things, is a small world. There are so many niche little kind of worlds within our culture that if you don't know about, you wouldn't even know about, type of a thing. Wrestling being one of them, and mediumship being another. And there are so many fantastic mediums that have stories. So that's essentially what this book is a compilation of medium stories, both personal stories about our own lives and experiences and things we've experienced just with clients. My chapter, so there is a school in the UK called Arthur Findlay College. It's a school for psychic sciences and mediumship. It's been around for a really long time. It's a beautiful old Tudor mansion. And right before the COVID shutdown, I was there in February of 2020 with some other mediums. You house there are dorms, and then it's an intensive like week or 2 week long study. And I had this experience where, okay, it's about to get real woo woo, so buckle up. I do something called trance channeling, which if you ever heard of someone like Abraham Hicks, for example, that's what that is. So I can go into a deeper state of meditation, and I can allow guides or ascended masters to use my voice and talk through me. So I was in a circle. It was late at night. We went into one of these rooms because this used to be a home of someone, Arthur Findlay, and we actually got to go into some of these rooms at night, and it was with a group of mediums. We did kind of a meditation circle, so they all were there and witnessed it. And my little chapter in the book is essentially the transcript, because it was recorded. So it's the transcript of what happened, what the messages were that these guides brought through. And the people that were there, it's really interesting because I'm not all the way there. I'm kind of like, it's kind of like if you were half asleep and half awake, and you're hearing what's going on, but not really. So after I kind of came all the way back in and out of my meditative state, they were telling me like, oh, your voice was totally different. And there's actual audio recording of it. So I had played it for some people really close to me. And I was like, I just want you to hear this thing. And they were like, who's that? And I was like, that's me. And they're like, that's not you. So it's really, I trained for about 5 years to be able to do that. So it's not just something that spontaneously happens. But so that is what ended up in the book. It's not the first story that I submitted, but as you know,
Oh,
as a writer with editors and it's a real book, so there was an editing process, and we all got assigned someone to work with, and it became, they asked for something different. So as sometimes happens, which I think is so important to highlight to people that are wanting to, whether it's a collaborative book or whether you're writing courses or books, it's so hard, especially if it's like a personal story, to not get attached to, well, this is the thing I want to share. Do you know what I mean? So I think that we're always working on ourselves and personal development. So yeah, I submitted a totally different story. And then they were just like, can we just have like, not this at all? They made some suggestions. I didn't really align with what they had suggested. So I thought like, okay, well, maybe this will fit. And it did. They liked it. So yeah.
ah, me like indeed. Yeah, I was like, sure, this is a quick chapter to freaking read. I'm like, all right. Only got two highlights. I'm like, all right. So we're gonna get the full Joy Giovanni book special.
Like most people, I have many books in me. I write all the time, which is interesting. And I know that your podcast focuses more on like formal books themselves, but I would like to encourage people, if writing an entire book feels daunting. So it's one of the magical things about social media. We can be writers and creators in an instant. I'm always writing courses and meditations. I write the podcast, which is, spiritual topics. And so I deep dive, but I've done research and written the whole episode myself. So I'm always writing. I do think if you find the WWE to mediumship version of my story intriguing, the overall story is really crazy, I guess, my life story. So I've thought about writing about that. I thought about writing about signs from the spirit world just because I think it's such a powerful subject, something that's accessible to everyone. It's one of those things that we don't necessarily talk a lot about in culture. How I was saying, we hide these little bits of things, but I can't tell you how many people in the last like 10 years have told me that they have had some sort of experience that they can't explain, where they received a sign or a dream or felt the presence of a loved one or just something that they couldn't explain a different way. So I think sometimes we all feel alone in these things, and there's power in sharing so we can be a little bit more unified and kind of normalize some of this. It's not as weird as we might want to think from the outside. So yeah, those are I don't know, floating around in the ethers. I'm always writing and working on stuff though, so I can't give you a firm date just because I hate to commit and disappoint. But it's bubbling around. I've been getting the nudges that okay, it's maybe time to start refocusing on this a little bit.
Oh, heck yeah, shoot, because you've been journaling for years and you got a bunch of stories that are probably hidden, and some of them don't want to stay hidden. Some of them you probably want them to
Yeah.
stay hidden for good reason, to protect people and all that good stuff. But hey, folks got to be looking forward to it at this point.
Well, I think that's the thing too, like with our personal journey, for example, the most powerful stories are usually the ones we would like to keep hidden. You know what I mean? They're usually the ones that are like, oh, this is not the best look for me, but here's how I transformed because of it. I mean, I think that's part of it's one of the beautiful parts of mediumship too, this vulnerability that it requires. And I think it's anytime we're sharing with the world or with an individual, that vulnerability I think is what is the discomfort that sometimes holds us back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true. It's like, hey, this is some big discomfort here, but then again, I'm out the comfort
Yeah.
zone, so that's a good sign. It's like maybe this is where I need to be. Maybe that's the inner compass.
Well, and the truth is, like for me, when I said I was going through that time period where I was consuming, I mean, the truth is, I was the only high school, like 15-year-old in the self help section at the bookstore, posted up, like reading everything I could. But that's what I returned to when I was going through that chaotic time again. And there's one author, I followed her since I was in high school, which I think I've dated myself many times already since we've been together. Her name's Jan Van Zant. She's an incredible author, speaker, teacher. And it was her work, in part, that really raised me up from this really hard place I was. She was the first author that I was reading talking about traumas that I had experienced that were profound and ugly. And there's just so much power in that. And if you've ever read her work, she shares in such a raw, direct, but no nonsense and no victim, style. So just the way that she was able to articulate those things and articulate, how she was able to move herself through that time inspired me and carried me in ways that I'm eternally grateful. I've bought her books for many people. I recommend her constantly still, even though some of those, in the wide world of publishing, especially back in the day, she doesn't have rights to a lot of those books anymore, but the work is still incredible. For everyone out there, I think automatic assigned reading is in the meantime, and then there's an accompanying workbook that she has, Living Through the Meantime, which I think should be basic personal development and self help for everybody. So I think it's important to remember the authors that have inspired us when we're in resistance about sharing those deep personal stories or the things that feel prickly. Think of it like social media. Like, yeah, there's plenty of pretty pictures and perfect lives that we can look at, but there's enough of that out there. Like, that's not what the world needs from us. It needs the actual, true, hard stories, right?
Oh yeah, definitely indeed. Because we're in the era where folks aren't a fan of veneers these days. It's like, hey, we want the honesty, y'all. We're tired of all
Yeah.
the darn costumes, metaphorically speaking. Here, tired of the masks.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like it's those it's going to get a little tighter in that way. I just was reading a story before we popped on this morning about someone that made a political criticism that's in a news station kind of in the middle of the country, and it was fired for making a criticism of, the current system that we have. So, and now, we've heard recently at the time that we're recording this that fact checking is going to be maybe loosened in a lot of places. And so it's going to become more and more difficult to discern what's truth, what's the noise, what's the meat of the information. I think a return to reading, whether it's, actual reading or whether it's listening audibly to books and information, podcasts, like reputable sources, I think is going to rise up within the next couple years.
Oh yeah, definitely, especially when it comes to tangible media, because it's like, hey, some folks are like, yeah, I think I might have to get an old DVD player here and get some of this content and keep it because they might take it off and hide
It's so true.
it.
I mean, it's true. You never know, right? You never know.
Yeah. But hey, the good news is you're not just a wonderful author who published a book, you're also a fellow podcast host too. And you host a
Yeah.
wonderful show known as The Spirit Speakeasy. So my goodness, since you're fellow podcast hosts, I always like to ask fellow hosts what are their top three lessons learned from starting, growing, and running their shows?
Oh, that's a great question. I didn't hear that on any of your other episodes, so I wasn't prepared for that. Let's
No, you're
see.
prepared. You just don't know it yet.
Oh yeah, starting running. And so a lot of people don't know this, but I have a coach that I work with. I believe firmly in mentorship and coaching. I teach it and I practice it myself. So I have a mentor, and she for about a year was trying to convince me, like, you need to start a podcast. And I was like, no, I don't know how to do all this tech stuff and editing and all of it. I just felt so daunting to me. I had been a massage therapist and a healer for many years. I was not doing the computer part that maybe a lot of people were doing. It's every bit as much of work as I thought it was going to be. I think that's an important number one to notate, because that was my resistance. Was I realized how much work and commitment it was going to be. I don't love, starting things and not going through with them, especially if we know on the onset what it's going to be. So it's everything I thought it was going to be as far as like the commitment, the amount of work. But it's really been interesting to see, I hate to use this word with it, but like the magic of the far reaches of the universe that it can get to, as crazy as that sounds. I just had a client a couple weeks ago that was in Australia, and I sometimes will ask people at the end of the session, like, oh, how'd you hear about me? Especially someone that's in the other side of the world. And she said, oh, I'm an avid listener of your podcast. I really love it. So that I think has been, we know it's the potential, but I also am a realist. So I think like, it could happen, but maybe unlikely. So that's been a really cool thing that I've learned is it really can, little by little reach more and more people if you're consistent and do all the things. And a good third one, I think, is if you have some sort of like a mission or a calling on your heart or something you're really passionate about, if you can, what I did, if you can do this, rework your thinking to think of a podcast as a library of sorts, that you're offering reputable information. I feel like you, like I, really vet my guests. So I'm not just having any person on there. I want to make sure, like, what are they selling? Like, are they going to try to
Yeah.
sell my clients on something that's, scary or out of integrity or whatever? But thinking of it as this resource library that is there for hopefully many, many years if the internet continues on like it has been. And with the evolution of AI, I love me some ChatGPT, not to name only one company, but that's just the one I'm using right now. And that is actually suggesting to me now YouTube videos and podcasts and things. So don't think that it's not going to continue to expand with our world as it expands. And if what you offer, if there's any niche of people that is looking for that, and you are doing quality information and really putting your time and heart and effort into it and working on improving as you go, people that need you will find you, even if it's one or two people. I'm going to tell you a quick little story. Early on in my work as a medium, I started getting really anxious because I was thinking, like, this is a really big responsibility. And the type of mediumship I practice is called evidential, which means that I like the loved ones on the other side to give some specific and clear details about themselves so their person can recognize them. So it's either sharing, how they were as a person, their personality, details about their life. It's always things you couldn't possibly search for anywhere. And I was thinking, this is a really big responsibility that I'm being entrusted with, and that people are, having to come vulnerably to me. And I started to feel like, I don't know how I could do this. I don't know how I can hold this light, right? We all think about, like, holding shining my light. And I'm like, how do I, like, that just felt really overwhelming. And my guides impressed on me, oh, you don't have to shine your light for the whole world. Just think of it as this path, like, cement squares of path. And can you just be one little lantern and just light up this little square? You just got to light up this little square, and then you'll just be one step in that person's journey, and then they can get passed off to another lantern. And I was like, oh, okay, I could be one lantern. I can be one lantern. So I think for me, what is helpful when I think about the overwhelm of it and all the nitty gritty of it, I always go back to, can you just be one lantern? Can you just shine your little light in your little square and do your best over here, and, not get too attached to outcomes, but continue to try and put it out there, and the people that need it will ultimately find it. It's a long-winded answer, but that's what I got.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with long-winded answers here. We encourage long-winded answers. Name of the game, we're holding space here. Dang gummit, that's right indeed. It's all right. It's like, hey, be a lantern. You don't have to be all the lanterns.
Yeah. I think that's why people don't get involved in whatever it is, right? Whether it's you want to create a spiritual community or you want to create any type of community or get involved in anything. I think we think, oh, it's going to be so much on me, but it's like, no, just you're just adding your voice to the melody, right?
Heck yeah, that's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. Actually, now to think about it, shoot, even with the mediumship too, I know you went to a Catholic school growing up for a few years, and you're heavy, even at a spiritual bent, I guess, for lack of a better word that can come out of my mouth at the moment. So it's kind of like a return to spirituality. So was there a lot of pushback from the family in the beginning outside of your dad? Because I know he's a big fan of it from what I've heard on past conversations.
He's really open. Yeah. What's interesting is when I was a little girl, I was able to see and feel energies that others didn't. When I would be in, like, my family was not Catholic, but I was in Catholic school, like you said, and when I'd be in the masses, they make you go to the mass or the service. As part of your school curriculum, I would see swirling colors around whoever was singing or giving the address. I was able, and I went to Christian school for a while. I saw those swirling colors around people that were giving positive speeches sometimes. At different times, I saw spirit people. And I was even taught by a loved one that crossed over when I was about 4 or 5 years old at that time, how to work with signs and how to receive signs from her in the world. And even as a child, I was really deeply drawn to wellness and healing and self-improvement. And I could feel the unspoken emotions of everyone around. And sometimes it felt like I could feel everything. And I really deeply wanted to help everyone. Definitely along the way, subtle and not so subtle messages from family and school and religion and culture taught me to, like, protect this vulnerable inner knowing part of me, and censor it. And over time, I forgot these spiritual gifts and mystical experiences, and I kind of pushed them deep inside. Not to go too hard on religion, but I'm from Boston. And at that time, I was going to Catholic school in probably the early to mid 80s. It was some of the things I was learning, even at that age, I was not okay with. And they had a really strong message back then about the LGBTQ community. And I grew up inside that community. And so these people that were, my whole family, everyone I loved was quote unquote different, this outcast group. And then I'd be going to this place that was supposed to be teaching me about love and the messages. I find it interesting that most Christians haven't read the whole Bible, actually.
Oh yeah,
There are
it's
a
true.
lot there are a lot of messages in there that are about accepting everyone, not judging them. That's not your role. Your role is to love. So the contrast of these mixed messages and being directly told by priests that everyone I love is going to go to hell and die when I was like 6 years old was really traumatic. So I think it took me a really long time to unwind those messages. And then later, when I was in Christian school, I was about 13, 14, I had experienced a lot of really significant capital T trauma by then. And the way it was presented, I started trying to do the math of, oh, God let these things happen to me so that I could help other people. And that must be my purpose and why these horrible experiences have happened, which I now know is also not correct. But it's just so interesting that from my perspective, I don't think that these spiritual gifts or spiritual experiences are very separate from what we understand as that divine love and truth. But for some reason in the like religion of it all, it becomes very separate and distinct. A lot of churches that are of more of the like Pentecostal variety do like laying hands and speaking in tongues and all of that. It's healing, it's channeling, it's just different words for the same things. So I wish that I could say that religion was really supportive in my growth, and in some ways it was. I was my class's religious leader when I was a freshman in high school. I always felt called to help people in that way. I just always really struggled with the exclusion and the judgment and the bigotry and all of that part of it. So, yeah, I do know that groups have emerged now where it's more inclusive. I think that's wonderful and the direction we all need to be going. But I would encourage people that if you've had a tough experience with a formal organized religion, don't discount all of spirituality and all of your connection to the God of your heart, for example, based on what a group of people in a building told you. I beat that drum quite a bit, I think. So, and no shade. If you found a great group and you feel supported and you find nourishment there, like awesome. But I know that's not everyone's experience.
Yeah, it's true because the old saying goes, "Hurt people hurt people."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think once something becomes a little bit more systemized, do you know what I mean? We
Oh
have to
yeah.
look for those shades and colors of control. And like, is this information being shifted? Yeah, we could go, I could talk to you forever about religious studies. And if the translations from the original versions and oral tradition and text, and when you translate it, just like, even in literature, when you translate something, sometimes the translation there's options of how you could present the meaning, right? So yeah, I think there's a lot more of that in there. So for me, it's something I had to really reconcile myself with when these gifts started showing up. I didn't intend to be a medium. I didn't chase it. I didn't pursue it. I was working more with like angels and guides and doing this energy healing with my already existing client base. And then all of a sudden I started to become aware of people standing next to me that I couldn't see, but I could give a few details about. And then I was like, whoa, like what the heck is happening? Do I want this? Is this okay? Is this bad? I didn't even allow those types of television shows in the house when my kids were growing up because I would say, I don't want to open doors I don't understand. I had a lot of fear-based teaching from religion. So it's just one of those things that I reconciled with by saying, over time I started, like I said, exploring and giving some readings and sharing information that I received. And I saw weight lifted off people's hearts, even if it was like a little bit, to know that, oh, that person's okay, that person's safe. And part of the evidential part of mediumship is if they can show up from the other side, they know who they are, they know who you are, they can give details about themselves, then that's some sort of proof that they still exist, just in a different way. And I saw all the healing and relief it brought to people. And then I thought, like, this can't be from a bad place. This can't be a negative thing. I don't understand. So I think, like a lot of us, when I don't understand something, that really propels me forward to seek, right?
I
Knowledge is
seek
power.
indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah, sure. Especially when you use it. That's the name of the game right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right indeed. Knowledge is like the metal. When it becomes the sword, there you go.
Yeah. Well, and just like anything else, like mediumship, just like writing, is it something that most of us have the ability to tell a story? Sure. From the time we're little kids, we start telling stories to each other, right? Just like mediumship is a natural gift, a spiritual gift. We still have to train and learn how to understand what we're receiving and learn how to work with that, work with our own energy. Really is a big part of it. So whatever it is someone's wanting to pursue, try to release that expectation that, oh, if this is meant for me, it should just be easy. It should be, I should be able to just flow into it and not need a lot of training or not need a lot of mentorship. I don't find that true about anything. My favorite example for that is Michael Jordan. Clearly a gifted man, but if you know anything about him, you know that he trained and was out there doing free throws for hours and hours and hours a day as a kid. Had he not put all that time and attention into it, he might not have reached the potential of his soul in this lifetime. That's the same of anything that we want to do, right? That Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours.
Heck yeah, indeed. That's right indeed. We gotta want it and then put the action behind it upon many
Yeah.
hours. Those 10,000 hours indeed.
Yeah. So I think 10,000 might even be a generous underestimation, I think, at this point. It's like, I think it's a lot more than 10,000 sometimes.
Oh, you're so right about that. It tends to happen indeed. So, my goodness, so since you've been on so many interviews by the boatloads, probably got a great wall of China sized scroll of all of your media appearances. Is there a question that you wish folks would ask you more often when you're on the guest side of the game?
I thought about this a lot, actually, because I've heard you ask this question of your guests. Um, I wish I really wanted to have such a profound answer for you, Dom. I don't have one that's maybe the traditional actual answer because I love that, especially with something so niche and unusual as mediumship. Often in this realm, anyway, the conversations that I'm having, people are bringing such unique, authentic, specific questions that relate to their audience or their own curiosities sometimes because of things that have happened in their lives. That I really feel like I've been asked questions I couldn't have even thought of. Do you know what I mean? I don't know that there's anything that people aren't asking. And I do, because of this work, I do believe that our own soul or our guides will nudge us to ask the questions we need to ask. You know, as a host, sometimes there's a question that you're like, why am I even asking this question? I wasn't even going to ask this.
Yeah.
Why is the conversation going this direction? So for me, it's not really like I don't have a list of points that I'm trying to get across in interviews necessarily, but I feel like there's just in the sharing and in the conversation, the nuggets that can come out that can just sit with the right person the right way and be, again, one little step on their own path to opening their mind a little bit wider or to questioning something a little bit differently. I've received so many profound questions and wonderful questions over the years, but I couldn't identify one that I like wish people were asking that they're not. But that's a great question.
Yeah, it's all good because most folks don't think about it. It's like it's either one of two things. It's like your answer, or they're like, "Well, all right, you already asked me about what I was looking to pitch or anything," so
Okay.
it's like, "All right, I'm good." But hey, it's all good indeed. So, what are you excited about over the next 6 to 12 months?
All the things. I'm always teaching and creating community events and opportunities for people to connect. We kind of touched on this before we hopped on the call, but now more than ever, I think people need to be looking for and are looking for community that they can take a break from their regular life or they can get sustenance or so whether it's like a book club that people want to join or a knitting group or whatever it is, looking for those community opportunities. And as on our side of it, right, like what can I provide for the community, because we all have our own lane and our own strengths, and so it's one of the things that I always am offering ongoing is a monthly free community energy healing session where I guide everyone in a meditation of some sort. It's different every time, and do Reiki healing, which is a Japanese form of healing, aura clearing, chakra balancing. Like we're doing all of that. So that's every month. It's free to everyone. You just have to sign up on my website, joyfulmedium.com, in the events section. You also will see whatever is going on because I do not only individual readings but group readings. Yeah, and I've got some mentorship courses opening up as we're recording this. I have a workshop this weekend. So there are always little things. And this year I really want to be looking at how can I continue to offer multiple types of opportunities for people to get their feet wet or to feel supported or to start playing with their intuition. Because like we were talking about with all the, social media is beautiful and that we can all have a voice, but everyone has a voice now. So we're going to need our intuition more than ever to be discerning what's for me, what's not for me. Is there something a little off about that person or that situation? Or am I not hearing, like, is there more truth here? You ever had that feeling where it's like, I hear what you're saying and I know there's truth, but I know there's more that you're withholding? That's important. And we're so conditioned to look for our answers in the outside world that I really feel like intuition is going to become more and more important. I have a free gift for your audience too, which is called Sign Magnet. It's a free 3-day mini course to start teaching you, raise it, how to get signs. And if you've ever seen like 1111, 555, 444, people see them and then they're like, what is this trying to tell me? Or why am I seeing this? So one of the lessons has like a whole cheat sheet with all those numbers and what they mean. So you can learn how to get signs from the universe. You can learn how to get understand numbers as signs, and you can learn how to get signs from your loved ones on the other side. They are not in a faraway place. They are right here amongst us. We just don't see them. It's the unseen world. And when people say like, oh, unseen world, there's Wi-Fi all around us all the time, sound waves, light waves. There's lots of things unseen to us. And our loved ones are in that group of things. So you can get that totally free right on the homepage of my website, joyfulmedium.com. You'll see it. You just drop your name in there and you get access to all the videos right away, totally free at your own pace. So just looking for other things to, play with, have fun with, expand ourselves in different ways and really take care of ourselves. That's what I'm trying to provide this year, plus connection to the other side and to ourselves.
You love to see it indeed. That's right indeed. That's right. Joy is your Wi-Fi, y'all, to the other side in a good way. That's right indeed.
And you don't need a medium. Anyone can connect with their own loved ones on the other side. It's not the same way that obviously that I can do it, but you can feel them. They can send you signs, and they do it in a way that's like undeniable. Do you know what I mean? I have one client. Do you mind if I share a story? I know we're over time.
Go on ahead and share it.
I have a client. She's given me permission to share this story, so please don't come for me. But she is a wonderful woman. She lost her daughter to terrible overdose. This young lady struggled with many years, but she was a young lady, and she sends her mom butterflies from the other side, and it's in such undeniable ways. My client, this woman, works at a school. And last spring, a butterfly not only was following her around, but kept flying right into her face and then landed on her hand and sat there long enough for her to take many, many pictures and videos of it. And it's just like those kinds of undeniable things that it's like, okay, and on multiple days. So not just one time did this happen. This happened multiple days for her. So it's really incredible the way that they can help us understand them if we're available to accept it the ways that they can give it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, get that sign course, everybody. It's a lot of fun too. Like we need a little more fun.
Heck yeah, fun on the bun. It's going to be the sign you've been waiting for and looking
puns
for.
and fun on the bun? Oh my gosh, Dom. Dom serving fun and puns on buns. Get ready.
There you go. That's right indeed. It doesn't have to be cinnamon or honey.
Could it be though?
It could be. Shoot, all the cinnamon, all the honey. That's right indeed. Well, speaking of cinnamon or honey, one of the last two questions we're going to ask you for today will let you make an escape. So, fun question number 1. So, your wonderful book, The Last Breath, True Stories of Mediumship, The Afterlife, and Messages from Heaven. If that book were a food, what would it be and why?
Okay, I have a super weird answer for this.
Yes! Yes! All right.
Okay.
We're going to weird.
I have to equate it to not just the book, but my work as a whole. Courses, writing as like my work, writing as a whole. Rice is my answer. It sustains me. It can take a million shapes, flavors, iterations. It could be like mango sticky rice, right? I could be doing just readings. It could be a course, right? It could be a foundation for an amazing gumbo. There's lots of ways it can move and shift, and it only is dependent on the flavors that I want to bring to it. It can sustain me forever and be anything I need it to be at any moment. Just like books, when we read them, we're bringing all of who we are in that moment. Have you ever done this? I read a book, 10 years ago and read it again and gotten different things out of it. Rice. It's rice. I'm like, well, this is not a sexy answer at all, but this is what I got. It could be whatever you want it to be, whatever you need it to be at the time, and it changes and grows, but it's ancient and sustains us.
Oh,
Weird
okay.
answer for this, right? Yeah.
Well, no, I thought you were gonna say like squid or something.
Oh, oh, rice.
I prefer rice anyway. It does
Yeah.
take many forms, especially rice
Digestible
balls.
for all. Yeah. I mean, I've really sat with this metaphor. I've like really thought it out in lots of ways. Oh yeah, it does. Because it's one of my favorite things about this work is it can, there's an evolution to it, and it keeps growing and changing and shifting, but the truth of it is ancient and always there. So yeah.
That's right. Always there. That's right indeed. You can always count on rice, y'all. That's right indeed.
Yeah.
It's been there for years.
Seriously. Yeah.
That's right. Been here longer than all of us.
Changes with us throughout our life. We can add flavors. We can add new flavors as we grow and expand, right? Rice is the metaphor for life. I think I've come up with a whole new thing.
There you go. That's going to be Joy's future book. That's right. From WWE to mediumship, all in one rice ball. In this case, one rice
Maybe.
book. That's right. See? Well, coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in the current year, what advice would you give to yourself?
I had questions for you about this question, which I should tell the listeners or not. But as soon as I heard you ask this question to people on your pod, I was like, oh, I got questions about this. Am I 25? Like, this is my 25-year-old life? Am I 25 today? And my kids are 24 and 26 and I'm 25? Like, what is happening? You had advised me that, like, no, you're just 25. You have this current life and you get to be 25 again. What I didn't ask you is, do I have the wisdom I've had, or I just have only 25-year-old wisdom? It sounds like 25-year-old wisdom.
Oh no, it's your current wisdom. Funny enough, the question was a lot longer hundreds of episodes ago, but I shortened it to try to make it a lot easier for folks. It used to be like a 3-part question now. It took out the last part, but yeah, you're basically 25 tomorrow, so you go back being, 1 year younger. Good times.
Anyone that listens to this that knows me will know that, like, I always have questions. So I'm like, oh no, I got questions. If I woke up and I was 25 again, what would I tell myself? I mean, in the most practical way, I like for business tips and stuff, I guess I would say, make notes of everything and focus on AI. But in a more spiritual sense, I think the truth is, knowing that still small voice within you is real. It is the most powerful voice. It is the first and last voice to listen to. Because like I discussed with you in this episode, I spent so many years listening to outside voices to tell me what was best for me. And we all have that little nagging, it's the voice of your intuition, that little nagging voice that's, sometimes it's like, you got to get up and go to that gym, even if you don't want to. And sometimes it's like, don't, like, that person is dangerous. I know they look great from the outside, but something's not right. Do you know what I mean? I wish that I knew at 25, listen to that voice, take it seriously. Again, back to the woman I love, Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And that voice always knows, but then we come in with our busy mind and convince ourselves otherwise. But if I could have one grain of wisdom, it'd be that. Listen, hold on to that voice and prioritize it like never before.
There you go. A grain of rice wisdom, y'all.
There you go. I'll take it.
That's right, indeed. You'll love to see it, indeed. That's right, indeed. And the funny thing is, with all this magical content, it's only a small percentage of what you freaking know. So, for those who need
I
to dive
know.
into the other 99% of all that Joy has to offer with her wonderful, wonderful, joyful healing tool belt, what's the best way for folks to do so?
You can always find me at the website, joyfulmedium.com. I'm on all of the socials at Joyful Medium, and I would super love it if you would check out the podcast. It's called Spirit Speakeasy. You can search it wherever you listen to podcasts, and it is also on my website in the blog section, because that was originally in my blog page, under the blog section, and all the videos are there as well. So I would love it if you check it out. There are tons of episodes. Half of them are solo chats, just me and the audience, and half of them are interviews with mediums, mystics, and the luminaries of our time. Everyone from astrologers to financial advisors. I mean, everyone, because it's our lives are in totality, right? We're not just one little sliver of ourselves. So that is how you can connect with me. I would love it if you did get that free mini course, and it'll sign you up for the email list. Once you're on the VIP email list, you'll hear about all the offerings. I do put out a weekly free reading and that community healing event every month that's live, and I send out the replay. So yeah, there's lots of ways to get involved. Joyfulmedium.com. Come and be a friend.
Woohoo! We heard that right, folks. If you enjoy hearing Joy as much as I freaking do with her lovely voice, that means you need to jump
You're
into a
very
world.
sweet.
You get, yeah, that's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Check out our podcast, y'all. It's good stuff, indeed. A lot of great content. Get Joy in your brain for even more, a lot longer. Subscribe to our email list. That's right, so keep in contact. Be the first to know when all the goods are going to be dropping. That's
Yep.
right, indeed, because she's still just getting started, y'all. She's still got a long runway ahead of her, y'all. She's
I
just
hope,
getting
God willing,
started.
right?
Oh
I
yeah,
hope.
shoot. Yeah, shoot. Hey, early start on the actress TV side of the game, now on the mediumship side of the game. You're in a good place. Like some folks don't make out on the other side, like
Yeah, I know.
feeling a lot better. So hey, you got a lot to be grateful for, and you're a role model for some folks out there. So hey, it's good stuff. So folks need to stay up with the wonderful Joy indeed. Well, any parting words before we close up shop?
Oh, thank y'all for being here, first of all. And I would just say, one of the main lessons I've learned personally from mediumship is that time's not guaranteed. We all, have this thinking that, we're doing our 5 year plan and our 10 year plan and what's going to happen when we're old. Time's not guaranteed. So do the thing, tell the person you love them, be vulnerable, be honest with yourself about what it is you truly want, and ask yourself, why are you waiting? Why not now? Shoot your shot, go for it, and give yourself permission to just be a little bit more yourself if you can. Yeah, and we're never truly alone. I mean, we all feel separate and alone, but you're never truly alone.